It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
I think we need to remember that at the end of the day, real estate agents are salespeople. They are tasked by their company to bring in clients, and some of them are very good at that. That's how they make so much. That's how the industry does so well. But it's also important to remember that buying the house doesn't end once the contract is signed.
That is Shauna on the Real Estate Breakfast. As the weekend has come and gone, new opportunities this week if you missed out on the weekend, as we start to squeeze into the business end of running up to Christmas. Have you been tracking this Sean Combs Puff Daddy thing? He's in prison at the moment, but over the weekend I watched this new documentary called Sean Combs, The Reckoning, where he comes off about as bad as he possibly could. The doco goes into following this guy through the music industry, with people coming out and opening up and talking about what happened back in the 1990s. And it's straight out of a gangster movie. And I think of when he gets out of prison, no one is going to touch this guy. Damaged goods well past their use-by date. So if you're looking for something to watch on Netflix, I can thoroughly recommend that one. Well, it's a Monday, December the 8th, which is also a big date musically. It was on this day back in 1980. John Lennon was assassinated. And also a couple of birthdays by singers. We've got Nicki Minaj, who's turning 43, and Sinead O'Connor, who's turning 59. Could you have two more different singers? So let's right now catch up with Shauna. She is a conveyancer, and there will be some of you deciding to delay your real estate decisions until next year. Is that a good idea? This is something that you're probably fighting with yourself internally, and maybe if you're a married couple, one might be saying, oh, let's just relax and leave it until the new year, and the other one might be saying, no, let's do it now. So let's come to you, Shauna, because is there anything that these home buyers can do in this time period right now before 2026 arrives to give them some sort of an advantage?
Of course there is. And look, there are so many people pushing it off to next year. Even the cases that I'm working on now are trying to rapidly wrap everything up as soon as possible, or putting a pin in it until they get back in the new year. But look, if you're switching off now for a few weeks, go enjoy yourself. I'm a firm believer that if it's for you, it won't pass you, especially if you're a mortgage buyer. Now, if you're still in the figuring it out phase, December is a great time to play with the numbers. Get on the mortgage calculator, see what you can afford, or even just see how long it would take to build up the funds for all of your associated costs. But if 2026 is a dead cert and we're going to hop onto the property ladder, December is the time to get your pre-approval.
Yeah, that is such a great idea, in terms of get out of your car, do a bit of a walk around the area. Just that familiarization is critical when you're looking at buying any form of property. And does it make sense to get pre-approval in December? Some of you will be asking this question if you are not going to be doing anything until January. What would you suggest where people are fighting this as well, Shauna?
So pre-approval is like, how long is a piece of string? You could get your pre-approval through in less than a week, or in some cases it could take 3-4 weeks to come through. You just don't know. Maybe you want to look at and compare different banks. Maybe the bank will come back and say that there's additional conditions they need you to meet before they can proceed to a final offer. There are so many different things that could crop up, and because of that, there are so many benefits to having pre-approval early. And look, even if you're starting to attend viewings through December, which is a good idea given the market is a lot quieter, pre-approved are the magic words to sellers' ears. So when you're putting in an offer, when you say the words pre-approved, they're more likely to take your offer over someone who hasn't even started the process. So you're more likely to win the house. So yes, relax a bit for Christmas, but don't go into hibernation. A little prep now can save you weeks later down the line, and might even be the difference between securing your ideal home or losing it to a more organized buyer.
Yes, let's have a look ahead to January, and you've got your pre-approval in hand. That is great, and you're ready to put in an offer. What are some of the key things for buyers to keep in mind? Well, let's go to you, Shauna, because I'm sure you can talk to this.
Yeah, so I know I might sound a bit mad saying this, but it bears repeating. The document that the buyer and seller sign to agree to the purchase, it's a legally binding document. You have to read it, run through it with a fine-tooth comb, ask questions, ask more questions, and ask so many questions your agent wants to quit. Honestly, you have no idea how many people think, I didn't read it or I assumed it was in there, is a valid answer when troubles start. It's a contract. Both parties are legally bound by the terms in it, and breach of contract can land you in big trouble or wind up with you handing over 10% of the property value. It's beyond imperative that you know what's in the contract, that you understand it, and that you agree to hold up the terms. So you have to sit and read it to really make sure that you can meet those requirements.
And if you don't understand things contained within the contract, ask somebody that will know. Because of real estate jargon and lingo, sometimes that can be a little bit overwhelming. And let's not forget that you've got AI these days, and see if that can illuminate any light on words or phrases that you are unsure of. But don't rely, and this is really important, on AI as a definitive answer, because many people around the world are doing that, and it's crazy to do it. Double check what it might throw up. And you're dealing with this all the time. I know you are, Shauna.
I do. And I'll tell you a story in a minute about a client who has recently tried to use AI to answer questions, and it was disastrous. But yeah, 100% buying a house is an intense process, especially if it's your first time. Many people won't admit it, but it's an emotional process. It's an industry you don't understand, with 1,000 moving parts and a whir of people actioning different things around you. But, and it's a big but, it's so important to remember that the contract is between you and the seller. That's it. If something goes wrong, it's between you and the seller. It doesn't matter what the agent said or the bank said or the mortgage broker said. At the end of the day, there are two parties who hold liability. So if you're overwhelmed, if you don't know the answer, take a breath, pause, sleep on it. Don't let people with no skin in the game push you into making decisions you're not 100% sure about.
Yeah, that's great advice, because buying property, as you say, it's very, very stressful. Next to planning a wedding, not that I've ever done that, and inviting the in-laws over for dinner. So how do you make sure that you don't get overwhelmed by this whole process, Shauna?
So it's very simple. You educate yourself, you ask your questions, and you pick good people who know how to answer those questions. In 2025, I've transferred over 100 million worth of property. And the biggest thing that crops up time and time again that causes issues is people making snap decisions without fully knowing or understanding the process or what the result of those decisions would be. And look, don't get me wrong, it's not your job to understand the process. You're not here to manage how everything moves, but you do have a team of people who you're likely paying a lot of money who can advise you. You're paying them, so use their services. I was telling you there a minute ago about a client I had who used ChatGPT to answer a simple question. It probably would have been quicker for him to just send me a WhatsApp, but he decided to ask ChatGPT, and it was wrong. So here the client was plotting out next steps, creating spreadsheets, trying to decide what everybody needed to do based on completely incorrect information given to him by AI. And his response when I asked him why he did that was he didn't want to be a bother. And look, he paid me, he paid a real estate agent, and a mortgage broker makes their salary based on him, and he didn't want to bother us. That's madness.
Yeah, and I just know of other people as well when it comes to property. They're leaning into AI. The agents are leaning into the AI as well, which is really dangerous because you as the end user can be getting the wrong information from the agents, which is why it's hard to find a good agent. And the number one question that people ask when buying property is, how do I find a good agent or company to act on my behalf? Remember, we've got that curated master list of real estate agents and companies who we trust. And because we are not a real estate company, we are not biased in our recommendations to you. Tell us the area that you are looking at buying into, and we will make that recommendation nice and easy. And Shauna, it's no doubt something that you get asked all the time.
Yes, pretty much every day. And I get to experience life when people pick the wrong agent. So that's always fun. But that's why I always am harping on about the importance of having a good team around you. This is where it comes into effect. Your mortgage broker, your real estate agent, and your conveyancer. It's a team of people you need. Like, you can look online, sure, there are big companies, there's names you'll see flashed everywhere, but they're not necessarily always your best bet. You don't want to be just one of 1,000 clients someone is dealing with and not responding to. This is your home buying process. So we really need to find the right people to work with. The best way to do that is to ask around. Ask your friends for suggestions. Ask in every single Facebook group. Get feedback, and preferably from people who have had terrible experiences. Of course, an agent is going to look amazing if the process was super easy, but you'll feel safer in the hands of someone who has put up with messy transactions and knows how to fix problems when they come up. Look, every mortgage broker is selling the same banks. Every real estate agent can get their hands on the owner's contact number and get you a viewing. Your mission is just to find the one who can provide the correct service.
Yeah, and if I can just put this little footnote in as well, and I'll get you to maybe make a comment on this as well, Shauna, because you might have seen this. Just be very careful with the social media and the videos of the agents talking to camera. Not everyone translates into a quality agent, so don't get duped into thinking just because somebody is talking really well in front of a camera that they are a high-end agent, because if you think like that, you will be very, very disappointed. They might not be able to handle the due diligence that is required, all of the follow-through, and that is so important, Shauna.
I think we need to remember that at the end of the day, real estate agents are salespeople. They are tasked by their company to bring in clients, and some of them are very good at that. That's how they make so much. That's how the industry does so well. But it's also important to remember that buying the house doesn't end once the contract is signed. There's an entire 2-month process that comes after the fact. And that's where you'll see issues crop up and things that need to be fixed. So yes, social media is great to do a bit of research, but then you need to double down and make sure that they can back up the claims that they're making on Instagram.
Stay ahead of the competition with the latest news, insights and data analysis on the Property Podcast that keeps you informed.
For a lot of franchises, they are still stuck in the past where they are thinking that they can just provide a brand, collect their franchise fees every month and everything's going to be okay. Times have changed. The old way of franchising is dead. It's gone.
And you do have a constant supply shortage, which has been a problem as well. So I really don't think that we have the makings of a big crash or anything like that. Even if there is a burst in the AI bubble, it might be a bit of a sentiment dampener, but beyond that, nothing's actually changed in terms of the fundamentals.
Which is a $99,000 increase in house price across the combined capitals. What we have seen is house prices have risen faster than what borrowing capacity is improved by.
With Sydney, even a house median price of 1.75 million, a lot of buyers will talk about it's not fair, they can't afford to buy, but it's where they want to live, whereas they can afford to buy out here in Penrith and maybe buy it as an investment property and get your foot in the market.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.